Good morning there, Isabel.
Oh, hello there, Ted.
I gather you're going to be my hostess for the morning.
Yes, come on in.
Good to meet you. Lovely to see you again. Wow, this is looking great. Alrighty. Wow. Oh, what have we got here?
These are homes of some of the European early settlers in the Huia region.
Yeah.
That's the first house that was built here. There were people around before that, but that was built in the mid-1850s for the Kilgour family. It was down in the middle of what's now the domain.
Gee, look at it. All this sort of sloping roof there. What's that made? That's timber or slate or something?
I think that may be a later roof, but a number of different families lived in the house. After them it was the Hyams, and then they built a house down at the Huia stream end of the domain, about where the toilets are today.
Oh yeah.
And I think half of Huia lived in that house at some time.
You mentioned the settlers. I gather there are still some direct descendants of the early settlers living in this area.
There are lots of descendants. It was such an isolated area that many of them found their partners from their neighbours.
Yeah, and what are some of the names that are still here that are direct descendants?
Well, the Turners are some of the better known ones, and there's many Turner descendants here still as farmers and also retired. The Gibbons were another very early family out at Whatapu, and their buildings are still part of the lodge out there.
Wow. Oh yes, I recognise that building there, of course. I've been out to the Whatapu area a number of times, of course, and that name rings a bell. These are beautiful.
This is a more recent home, built around about 1910 by the storekeeper, and it's a most beautiful house inside. It's been lovingly restored, but the pressed iron ceilings have been kept.
Oh, okay. Isabella, who came up with the idea of creating this museum? And obvious question, how was it and is it funded?
A team of local historians got together wanting to create a memorial to the pioneer settlers of the Huia area. They milled timber and did all sorts of things for fundraising. These days it's grants and donations.
Well, Isabel, it's fascinating. I love the images throughout here, but how about you show me the rest of the place?
Okay, come on. Building the Auckland water supply dams has kept the area very busy in the past, and access to the dams was by locomotive. And I particularly love this story of the woman who lived up at the dam site and had to come to do her shopping using her own jigger, and it inspired a cartoon in the local papers in 1950, Huia or bust, to get her shopping. Huia probably isn't named after Huia birds. We don't think any were here. It's probably either a chief, Te Huia, or Te Hui, a corruption of the Maori word for gathering.
Oh, look at all these bits and... Oh, I love the cowbell. Isn't it fantastic? Found below the old Huia school. And blow me down! A Swanee whistle. My aunt used to play this back in the 40s. Genuine Swanee whistle. Kentucky.
Look at these old glasses. They must have been so uncomfortable to wear. And here's a treasure. Voices of Victory. One of Jem's contributions to the morale of America's armed forces and the folks back home. And it's a record. Hey Ted, how about changing your modern razor for this? This was found out at Whatapu. Good old cutthroat razor.
Well, not for me, Isabel. No, I don't think I'll go there.
Or a cute gadget for creasing your trousers.
Oh, that's a great idea. Well, I gather this is the way that people used to do all their cooking. What an amazing little machine. How do you use it?
Well, the oven part's in here, and you had a firebox here.
Okay.
And there's a real skill to getting the fire just right to keep control of the temperatures. And the pioneers all knew how to do it, but it's a lost skill these days. From about the 1850s on till the end of the century, this area was buzzing with the timber milling. It was a tough life and very dangerous. And the men walked miles to work, distances that we just wouldn't think of doing today. And there was such a lot of specialist tools for the trade as well.
Isabel, what's that you've got there in front of you, and what's it used for?
This is a timber jack that was used to stop the logs from rolling. These prongs went against the log and you wound it to lock it. And this particular form is a local variation invented by families out here to make it work better.
Those saws are huge, and I gather this was 2 men, one on each end of those saws.
Yes, and we tend today to think of saws as just having one sort of tooth, but it was a really specialised craft that required specialised saws for every job. See how the teeth change? And the Gibbons family particularly worked to improve the saw blade so you didn't get so much sawdust on you and things like that. It must have been exhausting work. At 7:30, rollers were breaking terrifically high around the Orpheus and whipping halfway up the rigging. About this time there came over the water the voices of the men in the tops, cheering and calling encouragement to each other. Then later we could hear singing as though hope had been abandoned. It was a heart-rending scene, never to be forgotten by those of us standing on the decks of the steamer Wonga Wonga on that fearful night. At about 8:30, the main mast crashed into the sea. A few minutes later, the other masts went down. The Orpheus had broken up completely.
Isabel, this obviously is one of the real focal points of the museum. Personally, I've always been absolutely fascinated with the history of the Orpheus. I do remember that she was lost on 7th of February 1863. 189 lives lost, only 70 survived, and that is the worst maritime disaster in New Zealand's history, isn't that correct?
Yes. She ran aground on the middle bank and she was only about 20 metres from deep water.
Oh, I do like that bell. Now tell me about what you've got in the showcase there.
Most of the pieces in here are off the Orpheus, and you can recognise the British naval materials because they put an arrow on their copper and valuable metals so they wouldn't be stolen. And this is probably a screw off the top of an ammunition box, and it too has the arrow. Much of the material that we have here has been presented to us by Thayer Fairbairn, whose passion was the Orpheus, and he researched it in great depth, did immaculate drawings to recapture what its structure was, made models of boats, followed up every possible lead, and created a book full of rich detail. As the timber milling ran out, farming became more important, and clearing the land. The bullocks were still very important for this, and they towed wooden sledges rather than the wheeled vehicles on the rough land.
Having a fair bit of experience myself on boating around the Manukau Heads and the Manukau Bar, I find the fact that sailing vessels, such as in these pictures here, came in unassisted, crossed the bar and then tied up against Whatapu Wharf. With the Manukau Harbour being the second largest harbour in the Southern Hemisphere, with an entrance only 1.1 nautical miles wide at this spot, the result is very strong and dangerous tidal currents. Isabel, this is a fantastic photograph, the old locomotive. Tell me a little bit more about the railway.
It was a really hair-raising engineering feat to get the timber down the coast from Piha down to Whatapu, where it could be loaded onto ships to head off to the world. And how they managed to do that without any of the modern equipment we rely on is amazing. There have been a number of stores in the Huia area, but the current local dairy has been here for more than 120 years and also used to be the post office. At times the going was pretty tough, and in the early 40s through into the 50s, the local store owner used to do preserves to sell in the store. Here we have an excellent batch of peaches.
Well, here we are back at school, launched in under one of these rather beautiful old desks. Tell me about this and the schools in the local area.
The Huia School is now an accommodation camp, but this desk pretty certainly came from there. Back in the old days of ink dip pens. Gosh, they were awful.
I remember using them. How does that date me?
Do you remember slates?
No, I don't remember slates.
You had a funny little pencil that wrote on them and then you wiped it off with a damp cloth.
Oh, maybe in your time, but not in mine. Well, I've never been a keyboard player, but I wish I could, looking at this. I noticed it was built about 1914 and you've got to just keep pedaling. Amazing. Well, this is a fantastic coincidence because as we're filming this, Blow Me Down, one of the original committee members of the Huia Settlers Museum, has just walked in. Welcome, Angela Marsden.
Thank you.
Tell me a little about your background.
Well, we came here in 1979. My husband, Richard, was farm manager and ranger, and in the process of our 5 years here, 1979, the 6 years here, we decided, I was on the CWI and I was also on the Huia Residents and Ratepayers with Ian Wells and with Norm Lang, and we decided we needed to set up a museum, so we set about getting funding and building the building and then collecting all the artefacts with the help of the Turner family and with the help of the Carters. And we had all these people delving under houses and finding all these relics, and eventually we opened the museum and I was first president, and then we opened it with Tim Shadbolt, the mayor of Waitemata. We did the opening ceremony, and here I am back again. This is the first time I've been back. The artifacts came and people would just bring them boxes, and so we'd have to take them out and give them each a number and a record in the box.
And Isabel, this is a section of the original mast of the Orpheus. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's a piece that's about 10 metres above the deck, and there was probably about another 10 metres of mast above that. And it's awful thinking of those sailors, most of whom couldn't swim, climbing up this, desperately trying to get away from the waves that were overwhelming the boat, all to no avail. Norm Lang has written a book about the history of the area, and we have it for sale in the museum. And Norm was curator of the museum for many years and was part of the original founding team that chose this beautiful spot to set the museum.